We are live on the World Wide Web. I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report, and it's time for another Friday Roundtable extravaganza. Joining me today is a political commentator, also known as Emily Saves America on the Instagram, Emily Wilson, and a former multiple-time Rubin Report guest, the senior editor at Newsweek and host of the Josh Hammer Show, Josh Hammer. Emily, Josh, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Dave, always a pleasure to join you, my friend.
Josh, you've been on a multitude of times, so I'm going to hand it to the lady, the new guest first. Emily, for people who don't know you, first time on the Rubin Report, what is it that you're doing over there? You're in Los Angeles right now. You're freaking me out when you told me that. What else is going on?
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point, I'm basically like a cultural, political commentator, but I'm just trying to get involved locally so we can save this city that I love so much. Obviously, we've had Gavin Newsom in charge forever, and he's done nothing for this city. But I'm one of the few people that's just staying here and not leaving. And I'm just going to try to fight as hard as I can and make it better, because I think it's one of the best places on the planet. And, you know, everyone thinks that.
And I am one of the people who fought hard, got audited by the state, and then left and joined Josh in the free state of Florida. All right, well, we're going to catch up on a whole bunch. And yes, that is true. I got audited by the state after I campaigned to get rid of Gavin Newsom. We're going to catch up on a whole bunch of some of the weirder stories of the week. But before we do, let me talk to you guys about TWC Health. Guys, what if I told you that you could replace your energy drinks, your multivitamin, your coffee, if you want to, and consolidate your overall supplement intake with just one product? Yes, one product, saving you money and making you feel incredible. You've likely heard the chatter about the benefits of beef organs, but have you heard about bison organs? Yes, I said it, bison. Why bison? Because it's the leanest, most nutrient-dense, and cleanest meat source, revered for centuries for its unmatched makeup of minerals, vitamins, and protein, hormone-free, vaccine-free, grass-fed, and finished. No GMOs, additives, or fillers. It doesn't get cleaner or closer to the source than Bison Trifecta from the Wellness Company. A revolution in nutritional science. The indigenous people knew how to harness the raw, untapped energy of bison organs, and now you too can experience it for yourself. Pure, ethically sourced bison in its most bioavailable form, freeze-dried in a convenient capsule. Bison Trifecta takes the magic of heart, liver, and kidney and combines them into a powerful blend that you can help to elevate your athletic performance, improve your digestion, shift your mood, reduce inflammation, increase energy, balance hormones, improve tissue recovery, and more. Take them as daily capsules or crack them open and sprinkle the powder into your meals or your kids' meals too. But do yourself a favor and make sure you find a way to add Bison Trifecta to your life. Your body will thank you. Look better, feel better, live better with Bison Trifecta from the Wellness Company. Go to twc.health/Rubin and use code Rubin to save an extra 15% and free shipping at checkout. You won't know how you ever lived without it. And now back to me. Okay, so let's just jump into some of the weird and the wacky of the week. I want to talk about South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. I've had Kristi on the show. I've met her a few times. Perfectly lovely lady. She has had a very uncomfortable week. Her book came out, and apparently there's a few stories in there that either quite aren't jiving with the truth or were completely made up and also involve a dead dog. Let's start, however, with her claiming that she met Kim Jon Un in the book, something that apparently never happened.
So they're also attacking you. I guess you said you met Kim Jon Un. Mm-hmm. Did you meet him?
I've been to the DMZ. I've been to North Korea. You know, I don't talk about my conversations with world leaders. And so when I looked at the book and I saw that excerpt, I decided to make the change to the content of the book, and that's been done.
So you didn't have a conversation with Kim when you were at the DMZ?
I don't have conversations about my conversations with world leaders. I've been working on policy for 30 years, Jesse, and that's what most people don't remember about me is I'm old. I'm a mom, I'm a grandma. I've got 3 little grandbabies.
You're not that old. So maybe you did have a conversation with Kim, but you don't want to talk about it.
I will not talk about my personal conversations with any world leaders. It just won't, and I'm not.
Okay, so it's fairly obvious she did not write the book. I mean, she's admitting that there. That's one thing. Okay, ghostwriters, fine. I think people sort of accept that from political leaders. The fact that she won't just admit it, and Jesse's doing the most kind of helping her out, just give me something here, lady, to not look completely fraudulent. She just can't do it. Josh, I know you've been talking about this story all week. It's just so painfully ridiculous. And she's a decent governor, by the way, which is, I think, partly why I wanted to cover it, because it's like even the decent ones. Here we go.
Well, Dave, look, I mean, I actually have some personal experience here because I actually worked with Senator Ted Cruz on his 2020 book. It was a book about the U.S. Supreme Court called One Vote Away. And I actually don't really use the term ghostwriter because that would be overstating my role. Ted was very hands-on the book. I remember Senator Cruz sending the emails that were time-stamped at 2:30, 3 a.m. I mean, he was burning the midnight oil, working really hard, drafting chapters on this book. Now, admittedly, not everyone has Ted Cruz's work ethic or, frankly, his IQ. Is a very smart man. But even if you are a politician who has to rely more on a ghostwriter, you have to know what's in the book. I mean, at some point, you probably should have actually read the chapters and signed off on the literal anecdotes that were included there. The Kim Jong Un thing is obviously absolutely ridiculous. I mean, why would you feel a need to even brag about meeting Kim Jong Un in the first place? I guess because Donald Trump met him, and then all of a sudden we're supposed to brag about meeting people who are authoritarian thugs. I mean, to me, there's nothing inherently praiseworthy in its own right about meeting Kim Jong Un, even assuming that it's truthful, which it quite clearly is not. Kristi Noem has all sorts of issues, Dave, between this and the whole puppy killing thing, which I'm assuming that we're going to get into. I think that she's probably out of the running at this point for vice president for Donald Trump.
We will get to the puppy thing in just a moment, but Emily, the fact that she just won't just say it, like she basically admitted she didn't write the book. Okay, fine. But then why not just say, you know what, actually I didn't, and some things got crossed up, like to just dig yourself deeper. It's just standard politician 101 that everyone can see through.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never want to be a politician. I'm definitely not one. I tend to just try to give common sense answers that people can relate to who like aren't into politics the way we are. But it's so funny to me because I wish people would understand at this point in time, people just want people who are authentic, and we see right through everyone. It's so easy now if you lie for us to find out and for people to come and attack you. And it's like, you would look so great if you just accepted that you might have lied and also made fun of yourself.
Right.
That's what makes you likable. And you had the opportunity with someone like Jesse, who I love talking to because we laugh almost the whole time. And it's like, just admit it. And also, I'm confused. Did you not read the book? Right. That's the easiest thing to me. Oh, I didn't read the book. And also, it's like, I don't discuss these things, but I put it in a book. It's like, so you do discuss these things. You just discuss it now. Okay, interesting.
Right. It's so many layers of it. And I guess before alt media, they could just endlessly get away with it. You know, they could make up stories and nobody would know. But now, yes, Twitter and Instagram and the rest of it and YouTube and all of it exist. And you just can't get away with it the way you used to. The other odd thing that has happened on this, as she has, well, now canceled her book tour, we'll get to that in a second, but as this book has been released, is she tells a story of killing a family dog while she lived on a ranch. And this has like absolutely blown up all over the internet. Here she is on Fox Business talking about that, or trying not to talk about it, but still talking about it.
Still think that you are in line to be Trump's vice president?
No, it's up to Donald Trump. He's the only person who will decide this. He's the only person who will decide. And I spoke. Yes, I do speak to him.
May I ask what he said to you about being vice president?
I never tell anybody my personal conversations with
Did the dog story
President
come up
Trump.
in a conversation with
I talk to President Trump all the time.
About the dog?
About a lot of things. And right now, I tell you what, he is being persecuted in a political witch hunt in this court case. So I'm proud of him about how tough he is and how well he is doing.
Did you bring up the dog?
Yes, enough, Stuart.
Did you
this
bring
interview
up the dog
is
with Trump?
ridiculous, what you were doing right now.
I don't
so
think
you
so.
need to stop. It is.
Okay.
It is.
We'll
Let's
stop.
talk about some real topics that Americans care about.
I'm afraid we're out of time.
Oh, well, of course we are.
We do thank you for being with us.
All right.
I know I pressed hard, but that's what people are talking about to this day.
Yeah.
Governor Noem, thanks for joining us.
Thank
we
you.
appreciate it.
You bet.
We'll be back in just a moment with the opening bell.
Man, I mean, you could cut the tension with a knife. Josh, she quote unquote wrote about the dog killing story, and now she's upset that people are asking her about the dog killing story. This is look, she's a competent governor. That's why I think this is so bizarre. How can you be so competent at one thing and then either not writing the book and not being prepared for media hits about it, and yeah, just the dishonesty.
Dave, that was probably one of the most awkward moments on television I think I've ever seen. What we just watched right there. I mean that was just deeply painful. I mean, just to take that in as a viewer, let alone I guess for her or for Stuart Varney to be sitting there in the actual chair. So if I understand the situation correctly, this is Kristi Noem's second book. Her debut book was 2 years ago in 2022. And there was an article in Politico, which I read, which basically said that at that time, Kristi Noem also wanted to talk about killing the 14-month-old puppy, but the book editors and the agent were like, what the heck are you doing? I mean, this is not a good story. This is going to kill your political career. And then apparently this time around, she managed to sneak it through, or maybe just the ghostwriter wanted to include it and she didn't actually read it. It's unclear exactly what happened here. But here is my biggest problem above all with the fact that this story got into the book, Dave. Yes, she obviously did not read the book. I mean, frankly, if we're just being brutally honest here, Kristi Noem is probably not a particularly impressive figure when it comes to her ability to write and read books and all of that stuff. But whatever. Holding that aside, the worst part about all of this to me is the fact that she apparently felt a need on a certain level to include this anecdote to boost her chances of being Donald Trump's vice president. What in the world does that say about how Kristi Noem views the median Republican voter in this country, the median Trump voter in this country, that she thought that a story about killing your 14-month-old adorable puppy, instead of just putting in the decent work that Americans put in and day out to train their dogs, to train their pets. Every person who's ever owned the dog, I've owned dogs since I was a little kid. Every person who's owned the dog knows you just train dogs. And the fact that she said, I'm not going to do it, I'm just going to shoot the puppy point blank, bury it in dirt road, she thought that would appeal to Trump voters and therefore boost her chances. The fact that she has that view of Trump voters and Republican voters, I think, is itself disqualifying.
Right. It's bizarre as to just why you put it in there. Did she not think the blowback was going to be worse than whatever cred she might get for having killed the dog for, I guess, the dog killing community that votes for Trump or something like that? Anyway, all of this has led to now this from Real Clear Politics. Kristi Noem cuts her book tour short, citing bad weather. And she had to cancel her appearance on my good buddy, the king of late night, Greg Gutfeld's show. Take a look at this.
So, this weekend I did something I rarely do. I read a guest book for a segment we had planned. It's called No Going Back by Kristi Noem. Who knew the title was referring to this show? Because today she canceled on us. Yeah. The one time I actually read the book. And the author, the person whose name is on the book, cancels, blames the weather. I don't believe it. I just think it's a little late to keep her on a short leash. So we're moving forward with the interview. Standing in for Kristi Noem is somebody she wished she had listened to before she ever wrote the stupid book, Dana Perino. So, Dana, a.k.a. Governor Noem, did you write the book yourself?
You know, that's a great question for someone who wrote the book. And I don't think I will dignify your question with a response. And there are so many other important issues in the world, like animal cruelty.
Would you blame, you've had a lot of controversies here, the ghostwriter, the editor, the publisher, was it their fault?
Well, a little known fact, another one of my dogs, his name was Ghostwriter. And I killed him this morning.
Emily, the reason I'm showing that clip is because, you know, Fox has been very kind to her. She's been a strong Republican and strong conservative, really good on COVID and everything else. But like, even now it's bubbling up there that she's kind of a fraud. I think that's just interesting relative to everything that's happening on the right now.
I think the worst thing was when you're watching her interviews, you're like, okay, not only like as someone who's on a much smaller scale, before I go on big things, I do have people that I talk to and they're like, maybe don't do this. So I'm a little bit worried at her level. She didn't have people, I don't know, helping her out or maybe preparing her to go on interviews. And then once again, because she was so unauthentic in the interviews, it was so uncomfortable. It made her very unlikable. And now you have them on Fox basically making fun of her. But everything they're saying is very funny and it's kind of true. It's hard to not laugh and side with them. I just think the best thing you can do is kind of own these things, make fun of yourself, make a joke, and then try to switch it into doing something good with it. But just blowing it off and avoiding it, I feel like that's truly the worst thing you can do. If she has like a PR team or whatever, she's going to have to work a little bit harder with them because now she kind of looks not so great, to be nice.
Josh, as I said, I didn't cover this all week. I mean, there's obviously been way more important stuff, but partly it was also because I was like, you know what? She's been a pretty good governor. The left is completely insane. The Democrats have lost their mind. I don't want to do anything as it relates to infighting on the right. However, I guess we do have to call out some of this nonsense when we see it. Otherwise, nothing will ever get better, right?
Yeah, we absolutely do have to call it out. I mean, Dave, I guess I'll be a little less polite than you. I mean, Kristi Noem, to be very candid with you, I've actually not been a huge fan of hers for a long time. She was overall better than most governors during COVID. I will definitely say that. Although this idea that she never locked down her state is something of a historical revisionist exercise. But, you know, she played this game as like, oh, I'm a ranch girl from South Dakota back when she was a U.S. Congresswoman. I think if you actually look at her record, it was really never quite as conservative as she said it was. But more to the point, when she was governor of South Dakota, Dave, you know, there was a big expose in National Review maybe about a year and a half ago or so talking about the extent to which the transgender lobby of all lobbies actually co-opted the South Dakota state legislature. And Kristi Noem was totally on board with this. So there are actually some red flags there in her substantive resume as well. So I'm personally speaking, I'm just frankly not overly impressed by the whole package. And I think America is starting to get a taste of that as well.
Well, you did give me a good segue because somehow we always end up talking about something related to the LGBTQI two-spirit. What else have they added to it this week? Anything I need? People who like waffle thing. Because over on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC, here is Joy Reid, who I'm fairly certain that's not her real hair. Here she is talking about the black lesbian WNBA player, Brittney Griner, who was held hostage by Russia. She got out, but listen to the way she frames this thing.
It's, to me, sort of shocking to think about spending nearly a year far from home, wondering if you'll ever get out. Because she was sentenced to 9 years, 9.5 years incarceration for what in this country would amount to nothing, and for something that wasn't even deliberate. But I think the Putin regime understood that they had not just a black celebrity, a black queer celebrity, somebody who could be used internally as a pawn, somebody who they could sort of internally mock and hold hostage from the United States, knowing the trauma that it would cause back home.
Joy Reid, thank you so much. We'll be watching the readout. Of course, we do tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern for part 2 of Joy's exclusive interview with Brittney Griner.
You gotta love Mika bringing it. Joy Reid, thank you. I don't know what the high hell you just said. There's something very weird in that, Emily, because she basically, this is a woman who claims that America is systemically racist and we hate gays and lesbians and everything else. But she's basically saying, thank God she was a black lesbian over there because that trauma is what made it a little softer for all of us and it made us care a little bit more. Oddly, she does not care about the 5 American hostages that are being held underground in Gaza right now.
Yeah, neither does our president. The fact that we have Americans over there, and I don't even believe he's addressed it at all. I was talking to my friend the other day. Joy Reid is one of, I would say, the dumbest people on the planet. She's absolutely doing nothing for females, I can say. She would have nothing and no career if she, imagine she couldn't talk about race or her skin color. Because the thing is, apparently everything's racist. Meanwhile, she's one of the dumbest people on the planet and she's thriving. I would say I do a lot better than her, but I don't get propped up for TV shows because I'm a fake blonde white girl. You know what I mean? And so it's so funny to watch her. I'm like, not only this whole black, lesbian, it doesn't matter. She broke a law in a country that doesn't allow and pander to the BS that we pander to here. Not only was she anti-American, I think she should have served out her 8 years there. And if I had anything to do with it, she would be there and she would be serving the 8 years. And I would absolutely not trade her for anything. I'd be like, America's horrible. It's racist. It's oppressive. Great. You're going to sit in that cell and you're going to have 8 years to think about it. Enjoy.
Josh, I don't love the idea of Americans being held in any other country's prisons for any other reason, and I 100% don't like them being held hostage, after being kidnapped, obviously. But doesn't everything she said there is a complete reversal of everything she preaches on her show every day? If America didn't care about black lesbians, then we wouldn't have given a crap, and Brittney Griner would still be in Russia.
Yeah,
I guess my question is her hair dye seeping into her brain?
I mean, I think the answer to that is definitely yes. By the way, speaking of Joy Reid, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, Dave, if I recall, that we that someone on the World Wide Web uncovered Joy Reid's very homophobic blogs from many years ago, right? So for her to kind of now be this avatar for the LGBT community is it's just different layers of insane and a complete and utter lack of self-awareness. You know, obviously a lack of self-awareness goes pretty far at MSNBC these days. You have Al Sharpton, the guy who incited the murderous 1991 pogrom in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, that led to the death of Yankel Rosenbaum. He is now talking about combating anti-Semitism. He even did an event with Jonathan Greenblatt of the ADL. So there was clearly a general lack of self-awareness that goes in the water or the water tank there at MSNBC or whatever they're imbibing there. Brittney Griner, I have no sympathy for her whatsoever. Emily, that's a very base take that she should have served out the sentence there. At a bare minimum, I definitely agree that she was not worth negotiating for or giving up any kind of asset in exchange for her, because she obviously did know that what she was doing was illegal. And if you don't know that that's illegal, then you have other problems, frankly.
Let me ask both of you this, but Josh, continue for a second. I mean, do you think, I know irony is dead and there's sort of nothing that's too over the top for these people, but do you think Joy understands at some level it's a bit ironic what she's saying as it pertains to the fact that she will not say anything about the 5 American hostages? Forget the Israelis for a second. There are 5 Americans somewhere, well, they could all be dead. We don't know. We know that one of them, at least in the last week, although his arm's blown off, is not dead at least. But they're there. They're underground somewhere, and she will not say a word about them. As a matter of fact, she will embolden the people who are keeping them there.
Right. Yeah, David, as I think you know, ever since October 7th, this has been a particular thing that I am just extremely, extremely frustrated and angry about, even taken on its own terms, holding aside not just the Israelis, but all the European citizens, everyone else who was slaughtered there at the music festival and on that horrific day. There were at least 30 to 40 U.S. citizens who were killed and at least a dozen or more who were taken hostage by Hamas. Literally on its own terms, since October 7th, this has been the single largest American hostage crisis since Tehran in 1979. And no one's talking about that. You know, Joy Reid's not talking about it. Frankly, a lot of people, Dave, even on our own so-called side, you know, a lot of folks who kind of pound their chest and say America first all day. Well, America first apparently stops when there are American citizens murdered by a America-recognized foreign terrorist organization and then held hostage by that same organization. Joy Reid is completely despicable and two-faced when it comes to this. I don't think she has the self-awareness, to go back to what I was just saying, to realize that she is so hypocritical here, but she's hardly the only offender here. I guess I will say that.
Yeah, Emily, what do you think about that? I suspect you agree with most of the sentiment there.
Of course, and I don't think she cares. I don't think she cares about any Americans anywhere when they hate all the Americans that are right next to them in this country that has given them such a beautiful life. And I would say I have no sympathy for Brittney Griner, and I would say that if it wasn't her and it was some far-right MAGA person locked up, you think she would? Exactly. Well, she would vote for them to rot there. That's why I have no sympathy. These people are so hypocritical, and it's just time to call them out on it.
Are you telling me that if a bunch of frat dudes with MAGA hats had taken over the Columbia campus, that Joy Reid wouldn't have been cheering them on? Am I to believe that?
Exactly. Yeah.
Lordy, lordy. Well, I do have some good news as it relates to all of this, because DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, which they should have called DIE, because that's what they want to happen to the rest of us, is crumbling in front of our eyes. And it's a really beautiful thing to watch. And one of the guys who really promoted this and escalated its sort of relevance in the culture is former football player, former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick. And he is now realizing this thing is losing steam. Take a look.
I think there was a lot of initial work done and a lot of marketing and PR done around it. Yeah. But a lot of that has faded and gone away. Yeah. A lot of the initiatives around diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of those have been dismantled. A lot of those people have been fired from those positions and they don't exist anymore. So there's still a lot of work that needs to be done there. And again, I think that comes back to customers or fans or communities. They have to voice their opinion of what they think is acceptable and what brands and organizations they are willing to support. Yeah. Do they represent their beliefs?
It's incredible to me. He's almost telling the truth, except accidentally, right? It's like there is a lot more work to be done. I agree. More DEI people should be fired. And yes, the fans have issued their feelings about this. They don't like endless racism in all of sports, which is why ESPN's ratings are in the tank. Josh, he doesn't seem to grasp that, I don't think.
No, he definitely does not grasp that. But I mean, I guess give him at least a tiny morsel of credit for having some self-awareness, again, contrary to Joy Reid on our previous segment here. I mean, Colin Kaepernick really was kind of a precursor in retrospect to the whole woke thing blowing up. I mean, the whole the whole taking a knee during the national anthem, that was very much a precursor to the explosion of the Black Lives Matter riots during 2020. You know, he wasn't a very good football player. He's not on a team the last time I checked, but he does deserve at least some credit for helping get this conversation out there. And he's currently losing that conversation, thank God, because DEI has never been less popular, as you said, Dave. Our state of Florida, of course, has banned it in public universities. I actually saw a very interesting headline from earlier this week or last week. No less prestigious a private university than MIT itself. MIT actually is starting to crack down on their diversity czars on campus. Sally Kornbluth, the president of MIT, was the lesser discussed of the liberal triumvirate that testified there in Congress back in December 2023, a few months ago. You had Claudine Gay, Liz McGill, and then Kornbluth basically went unscathed, the president of MIT. Now MIT is banning DEI diversity statements in faculty hiring. So we're clearly making inroads on this issue. Colin Kaepernick probably should realize, you know, what time it is, so to speak, and that his side is losing. But I guess give him a little bit of credit to recognize some of it.
Emily, you're white. Is that correct?
Today, yeah.
Is that going all right for you? No, I mean, look, seeing this thing crumble, this thing that has so infected so many people of your generation, you must feel good that maybe the worm is turning here.
I mean, I think what's happening, and I've been preaching about this online, because every time I'm attacked online, it's always my hair color and the color of my skin. And I'm like, I don't hold back when it comes to anything, race, whatever. And I'm like, first of all, I think people never stick up for how unfair all this is for literally Asians in America. I'm like, if school was fair, it would be 98% Asians at this point. And I'm like, they're like, the fact that they get kind of crapped on so hard in society right now breaks my heart a little bit. I feel like they don't speak up, and I hope more of them turn conservative because this is so unfair. But I explain to people, I'm like, this is child level thinking. Equal opportunity does not equal equal outcome. We have to reward people for working hard and being the smartest and being the best. And should we help people at the bottom? Yes, but what is the motivation when everything is handed to us and then you put our lives at stake? It's insane. There was a courtroom they showed, and it was like 9 Black female judges, and someone was like, this statistically is not possible. And I was like, great, I'm going to get sentenced to death because none of them like me. You know what I mean?
Just for the record, I think you're talking about the New York State Supreme Court, which is now all 5 Black females. It is statistically impossible, and it certainly is not diverse. If you care about diversity. Diversity is just anti-white at this point. And the thing is, when you hear diversity too, when are we talking about Asians? When are we talking about Indians? When are we talking about literally anyone except for Black people? And I'm like, this is not fair. We can't prop one group of people to the top, meanwhile forgetting about everyone else. I love diversity. I think it's great. I think people should grow up seeing everyone, and that should be completely normal, but not when there's so much anti-white rhetoric going on to the point where it's like, it's only for, you know, Black Americans or Black people at this point. I think it's ridiculous and it's unfair. So I want to end this week with one other story, because everyone knows I like ending the shows, but particularly Friday, with something positive. And there are some signs throughout the world that things can turn around. And I think we're seeing some of them on our college campuses with the frat bros pushing back against the Hamas soldiers and the rest of it. But I want to do something international here from Argentina, because there really is something wonderful happening down there right now. I've got a tweet here from Suzanne Evans. Wow. Inflation down 300% to 11%. The first quarterly budget surplus since 2008. Interest rates cut 3 times in 3 weeks, and the Argentine peso becomes the world's best performing currency. Milei proves the left-wing economic establishment wrong. So of course she's referring to the new Argentinian president. He's a libertarian in effect, Javier Milei. He's been absolutely wonderful, and almost overnight he has completely transformed Argentina, particularly their economy. We've got some video of him.
En la economía, la inflación vendría a ser al sistema de precios lo que el ruido es una comunicación. Cuanto más ruido tenés, quizás nos ponemos a hablar y no nos entendemos nada, y no porque no tengamos capacidad para entendernos, sino porque está el ruido. Bueno, la inflación juega el mismo efecto.
Es distorsiva.
Exactamente. Y esa distorsión que genera el sistema de precios hace que la asignación de recursos no sea la que originalmente quieren los individuos, se asignan más los recursos, entonces vos creás capital en lugares donde no hay que crearlo, destruís donde no hay que destruirlo, y eso que termina haciendo, termina castigando el crecimiento. Que termine castigando el crecimiento significa que hay menos capital en la economía. Si hay menos capital en la economía, los que no tienen, digamos, justamente necesitan del capital de los que tienen para ser más productivos. Entonces, si vos destruís el capital, le destruís la productividad y le destruís los salarios reales y tenés explosión de pobres e indigentes.
For those of you that are listening on the audio podcast who are not native Spanish speakers, in essence, he is saying inflation, which is caused by the government, is artificially putting pressures on the system so that when people want to trade properly, they cannot do it because the prices don't make sense. That's sort of like the simple bumper sticker version of it. Josh, perhaps you want to clean that up just a little bit. But how incredible has this been to watch basically within 6 months this guy do a complete 180 with a country that was on the verge of collapse?
Yeah, no, it's a deeply inspiring story. I mean, zooming out and looking at the whole South American continent, unfortunately, South America, politically speaking, over the past 3-4 years has really gone the wrong direction. There's been something of a pink wave in many countries. Brazil has certainly gone the absolutely wrong direction under Lula, who is a Chinese Communist Party sympathizer. He's very cozy with the Iranian regime. So Brazil's going the wrong way. Argentina is increasingly the lone bastion of sanity in the entire South American continent. And I guess the most impressive thing, Dave, how quickly this has happened.
Right,
I mean, it was not that long ago that he got into power there. But, it just goes to show you that when you reject the tenets of socialist economics and you just embrace some good old-fashioned common sense, maybe central planning is not here, there, and everywhere the solution. Maybe just a little bit of let the people do their thing, get interest rates under control, get inflation under control. He's sounding there a lot like Milton Friedman, which makes sense because he is a libertarian guy, but the way he speaks about inflation and interest rates is clearly derived from the monetarist school of economics. He's a University of Chicago-style economic free market guy, and it's been really inspiring, honestly, Dave.
Emily, how do we get more young people to understand that the government is not the answer, but that the government is the problem, and that they will keep printing more money, thus destroying the value of money, and the more services they give you means that they're taking more from you one way or another, et cetera, et cetera?
It's so funny. All these kids at college, I never went to college, are like the dumbest kids that have ever existed. So I'm not really sure what's going on or what they're teaching them. I think at this point it's to keep them dumb, to brainwash them. But I will say with someone, I do social media. I'm on it all the time, unfortunately. I'm telling you, if you go to TikTok right now, all these young kids have thousands of videos. They're all going, what? Like, they're like literally going to be like eat the rich and seeing like celebrities at Met Gala because they cannot afford food. They cannot afford groceries, their car, their insurance. They can't afford rent, all these things. They're literally like, what are we doing? And I was like, oh, congrats. You guys are waking up. Welcome to the real world where all the adults are playing. I was like, you guys all thought politics was a joke. Now you're realizing that these things affect your life. We don't just print money out of thin air. There's no such thing as free. They're finally starting to realize that. You know what I mean? It's just repackaged and it goes right back to you. I'm like, they're not giving us money. They're taxing it, and they're going to get it back anyways with more money. So thank God I'm seeing these videos go so viral, and there's so many of them. Kids are waking up, and I think they are paying attention. And there's a wave of young conservative kids because they're like, we can't live like this anymore. And I go, yeah, I mean, you voted for this and you enjoyed it for a while. Now that your life sucks, you woke up. Congrats. Better late than never.
Emily, what does a cool white Instagrammer do in LA over the weekend?
Oh, I'm so basic. I just go hiking. I hang out with my dogs and we get lunch. We go drive to PCH, Malibu, whatever it is. Honestly, I love it here. I feel like I'm living the dream. It's funny when we travel, we realize like this is the dream for us. That's why I'm like, hey, let's try to preserve the dream and not let these psycho leftists ruin it. But luckily, there's a lot of Republicans here, and they're starting to speak out, including a lot of celebrities and athletes now. So that gives me a lot of hope.
Josh, how about that? A chick in LA with hope. Very bizarre for a Florida man like you. What does a Florida man do over the weekend?
Well, Dave, funny you should ask. I'm actually playing golf on Sunday at Trump Doral, which the last time I was there was actually my wedding. I got married at Trump Doral in December.
That was a good night.
Yep, Dave Rubin was very much at that wedding and having a good time. I think we're all having a good time together. So I have not been back to the site of our wedding since then. So I'm going back to play golf this Sunday and looking forward to getting back out there.
Guys, it's been a pleasure. For everybody else, no post-game show today. And those of you who are in locals know where I'm going for the next couple of days. We're going to keep that on the DL for everybody else. But we will be back. We pre-taped some stuff, so we will be back on Monday. And my full episode with Miami Mayor, a guy who's doing some good work here in the free state of Florida, Francis Suarez. That's up on Locals. Part 2 is available all over the place. And if you are not following us yet, the new show account on Twitter is @Rubin Report Show. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.